Once you build up momentum, those wheels of movement start turning more and more. And your reality isn't waiting for a sign, it's just waiting for you to decide. Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. Hello to new viewers. We're talking about your reality, your 3D reality, and why it might not seem as though you're seeing the movement coming in, but I'm going to explain how and why movement is actually always and already happening in your reality, so you don't hold on to those negative assumptions or a mindset of lack. That's everything I'm going to talk about in today's video. And you want to stay tuned till the final part where I'm going to explain what actually is happening in your reality, the kind of things to expect and look forward to. If you're not currently seeing results, which chances are, that is a part of why you're watching today's video. It doesn't mean nothing is happening. If you're not physically seeing it, or there's no really direct, obvious, visible movement and shifts coming in, that doesn't mean nothing's happening in your reality. I know it's annoying the way the 3D reality does work, where those old circumstances can take a while to play out still, but they are ultimately, well, the 3D is ultimately going to be reflecting your dominant focus, your dominant thoughts, whether, it's the topic of SP, your career, self-concept, whichever focus and area of your life your manifestation is based in, wherever your dominant focus is, there is what's going on. So it doesn't matter if you spend 30 minutes affirming for your SP, for example, but then the rest of the day you think and worry and complain and, engage with content that reminds you about being single, about not having good dating relationships, men are trash, this kind of thing. If you're engaging in those types of thoughts or, behavior that might seem like, well, I'm putting in this effort, so what does it matter if I'm, talking to friends or scrolling social media? It actually does. If that is building up your dominant focus, your 3D will continue to reflect that. But, on the other side of things, vice versa, if your focus is predominantly positive and aligned with what you're manifesting, then that's what your 3D reality is going to reflect as well. So it reflects your dominant focus. And again, it doesn't mean it always has to be completely visible and this direct shift where you suddenly wake up, or just, the next moment you see, oh my gosh, okay, my reality has changed. My life, my lifestyle, what I'm seeing around me has changed. It isn't always visible, but I wanted to start off this video by reminding you guys that movement is always occurring, even if it's not yet shown in your physical reality. So the positive part of that is, of course, that if you focus on being in a relationship or having success, wherever your manifestation might be. I know a lot, quite a majority of people watching my content are manifesting an SP or want to build on, something in a relationship. Then the good thing is your focus there is building up what's going on in your circumstances. It is leading into a more positive domino effect, so to speak, where, the shift is building up step by step every day, more and more, to align with where that focus has gone. So keep in mind that if you are wavering internally, you can't then say, why isn't my 3D responding? Why isn't it conforming? Why isn't SP saying or doing this? If you yourself are wavering, that's what is also, by that principle, according to that key principle, is going to be reflected in your 3D. SP or whatever topic it may be is going to reflect wavering. So instead of reaffirming the opposing story, I'm going to tell you guys exactly how to turn it around. Instead of saying, then, is my manifestation actually coming? Does manifestation actually work? Am I doing it right? Is this actually leading into anything? All the kind of doubtful questions you might be asking regarding your manifestation journey, judging what's going on externally, judging what you see in relation to your current circumstances. If you can catch that and then say, nope, it is working. Nope, it is all happening together, coming together and happening in my favor. Just basically turning it on its head, and instead of letting that doubt filter through and letting yourself sit with that and actually think those thoughts, catch them, recognize them and say, nope, that's not true. That's rubbish. That's just the old story. That's the old way of thinking. Yet my conscious mind might have just come up with something that it thinks is logical, but it's the old way of thinking. And I'm no longer going to let my mind just jump to that. That's no longer going to be my automatic response. I'm going to think from the new story, and then you repeat the new story. So whether it's, SP is conforming, everything is coming together. I am about to get that job promotion. I have tons of amazing money and a salary increase coming in any second now, you know, reaffirming and repeating to yourself the new version. So catching those doubtful thoughts and questions that will come up saying, well, here's a reaction to, you know, in my conscious mind automatically about my 3D, you say, nope, that stubborn way of thinking and all those years of building up these deep-rooted subconscious assumptions and beliefs, even regarding manifestation, you're flipping that on its head, you're turning it around, and that in turn is what is going to help the circumstances in your 3D start to shift more and more. If you still have questions about those circumstances and you think, well, Alexa, this is what I'm going through, you know, I really think my circumstances are different or really difficult, I'm confused or overwhelmed, and you just have loads of manifesting questions, but you are ready to level up your manifestation, level up your life, actually get that end result without constantly jumping back and forth and struggling, then you can work with me. This is an extra coaching opportunity that I offer. My website currently has loads of offers available. So if you want to get those special discounts and extra products that I don't believe any other coach is offering right now, you can get a free custom infographic with every written package, lots of discounts, especially when you buy my SP Masterclass. So if it sounds like something you're ready to engage with and you do want my one-to-one support as a coach, then do click the link below, take a look. And another interesting aspect that I've been talking a lot about recently, but not in my most recent videos, is the RAS, your reticular activating system. So it's something really interesting that happens internally, where the more you focus on something, the more the reticular activating system in your brain is going to start picking up on and noticing all these things in your reality. So wherever your focus goes, you will start to actually consciously register and essentially be drawn to in your reality, seeing these things that maybe in the past you would have ignored and kind of taken for granted, whereas now it's an opportunity to see it as a bird before land, proof of your reality reflecting where your focus goes. So it's really fascinating how the more you put your focus on something, the more you're actually going to pick up on this and connect to it and see it in your physical reality. So it does tie in very closely to, I guess, the psychology of how birds before land actually works, and proof that where your focus goes, the more positive it is, the more positive examples you will see in your reality, and it's a great way to reaffirm in those moments. So you want to keep training and building up your subconscious to focus on the version of your reality that you want, to focus on these results, because then your mind is literally going to pick up on it more and more. Want to persist no matter and despite what your 3D reality shows you. So if you just take your circumstances at face value and say, yep, this is what is being shown to me, therefore that's my life, having a lack of this, a lack of a relationship, a lack of financial security, a lack of good, confident self-concept. If you're just going to take everything you see from other people in your reality, the circumstances at face value, and just accept them as they are, then that isn't persisting. And that's going to make your manifestation so much more difficult, much more hot and cold, this push and pull effect, because you want to essentially kind of override that and keep persisting mentally in the end result, no matter what gets thrown at you in the 3D. So the correct response and reaction would be to take those circumstances you see, whether it shows up in a conversation, just something you look at, something you maybe are maybe subtly experiencing every day, something that filters into your daily life, taking it as a temporary reality, temporary circumstances, saying, okay, yes, maybe intellectually, logically I acknowledge this is what's going on right now. It's the old story. It's filtering out. It's temporary. Everything always changes. Go back to that phrase that I love to share, which is the only constant in life is change. Everything changes and evolves. It doesn't need to be 180 shift. It can be changing from bad to good to even better. So you can look at it as that type of evolution in your life. All the good things will get better. That's a great affirmation. So just remind yourself and assume that this is always changing. The bad temporary circumstances are there just temporarily. And also having the mindset of expecting your results and knowing and trusting and again, building on this assumption, because you don't just suddenly assume. It does get built up through training your mind to think that way, but expecting results to come in, not immediately. So there is a distinction, not saying, well, my expectation with manifesting is that everything perfectly instantly works out. That is going to keep you stuck in checking for results, waiting, maybe being impatient or frustrated and anxious, but just knowing the results will come together. I just need to be patient, get on with my life, not question and overanalyze, not panic and spiral over this, just literally live life, do my manifestation practices, and expect and trust the results are coming in. They will come together, not immediately necessarily, but when they do come in, it'll be perfect and quick regardless. So up until you are able to reach that point and it does become more of your natural way of thinking, it's totally fine to still have those opposing thoughts. They will come up. That is not a sign of failure. So remember that. You do find yourself and your mind just kind of jumping to, well, what if it's not working? Or why is it taking so much longer? Immediately flip that around. You want to flip it on its head, as I said earlier, taking that negative, that doubtful, open-ended question where it's almost like an unknown, I have no idea, I have no control, and saying, no, I have control. I am the person making the decisions here in my reality. This is what it looks like. And then you can kind of visualize, imagine, repeat affirmations, just speaking to yourself of what that desired reality looks like right now. So you're, instead of saying, I wonder if it's working, you're saying, well, it is working and this is what I have in my life. My point is always to apply consistency with the positive thoughts. That's one of my key tips to my clients as well. I always repeat this when they're having a bit of a wobble, and it's really important that your brain can actually connect with that consistency. The subconscious mind needs and relies on consistency. Your brain, your literal neural pathways, the way they will change and adapt to positive thoughts, positive emotions, positive habits, it all takes repetition, it takes consistency. Those are essentially synonyms when it comes to manifesting. You're applying repetition, and to repeat it means to do something consistently, right? Because you're applying a lot of repetition. I don't just mean for one day or for 5 minutes, but literal repetition over a long period of time. Because then what your brain does is it's kind of going to go into autopilot reactions, automated reactions, adapting to that new positive way of thinking, being optimistic and positive and assuming and expecting the best, especially for your manifestation. Because that's the only way that your thoughts, your emotions, the way you perceive things can truly align with the new story. It needs the consistency to learn and accept and understand, okay, this is my reality. Okay, this is how I now think. I do expect this. I do trust that my life is amazing and is going to bring in these amazing results. So the only thing you're doing is really proving to your own brain, your own mind, internally to yourself, that it's true, that it works. There is nothing externally in your circumstances that you need to worry about. Just trusting and knowing where my focus consistently goes, it's reflected externally. So you're really just teaching yourself that this is my new reality and it's okay, it's safe, it's normal to me. This is not some crazy outside result that feels really far away from me. That is what you're teaching yourself in your literal nervous system. And I wanted to share a quote that I always come back to from scripture in Matthew 9:29 is, according to your faith, be it unto you. And that is a great quote, even if you don't have necessarily religious faith, to just know and trust. And for me, of course, it's about connecting to God as well, knowing that when you have that faith and you trust in it, it will be yours. So having that trust literally means thinking as if it's already done because you trust that it's already yours. You're not seeking validation or proof in your 3D. You're just coming from a mindset that builds up into this of knowing that it's already yours. So your 3D reality isn't waiting for some big sign or big shift. It's about your consistency. It's your own mind consistently coming back to the new story, teaching yourself to think from that version. That's what your 3D reality wants in order to be more positive, to see you focusing on the version that you want. So your goal is essentially just to mentally align with and mentally live from this end result. You're not chasing or seeking validation or reassurance or trying to force an outcome or change in your 3D. You're literally just mentally aligning with that version, focusing on it, thinking from that version, not of that version. That's what your 3D is going to respond to, and in order to give you and show you the results that you want. When you put your faith and your trust in that mental focus, in literally your faith, in literally having that trust, instead of taking everything in your 3D at face value, the new story becomes stronger and stronger. And that's what reflects more and more in your reality, in your actual circumstances, changing that lack into you literally having the end result. Your reality will literally not be given a choice but to conform to the version that you focus on. If you stop letting yourself waver between doubt, questioning, 3D logical thoughts, and then shifting back into repetition, but actually sustaining, at least for a dominant part, thinking and believing and assuming and just building up on this new story internally, repeating to yourself that you already have this result, thinking as if it's already yours, visualizing, imagining it, your reality will literally have no choice but to reflect that.